Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the number one podcast in the Southeast. I'm your co-host Rocky, and I'm joined by Matt. How are we doing, Matt?
Good, mate. Good. How about you?
Very good. I'm good, mate. It's hay fever season, so not doing too well.
No, I
But
feel you. The nose is already blocked. And trust, it's
yeah,
not
yeah,
COVID. It's not COVID. It's just hay fever.
no, definitely not COVID. So we're just gonna get straight into it. We've got a special guest that we'll mention later on.
He's a
Just a
big one,
normal
isn't he?
week.
It's a
Oh,
it's
he's
a big
pretty big. He's
it's pretty
Yeah,
big.
he's pretty big. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, it'll
Very,
be
very
interesting
excited to
to see.
introduce him later.
Yeah, it will be. So
Yeah,
good to hear his opinions on his team later. But for
yeah,
now, we'll push on to the
100%. Yeah.
trade news. So
Yes. So,
we have a
do you
mountain
want
of
to start?
trade news. We
There's a
literally
lot.
have a
Yeah.
mountain of stuff, but we'll try and push through it, as quick as possible.
Hmm.
Um, so first off, we've got Hewitt to Carlton. Another inside midfielder just to add to the depth of Carlton. So that's a good pickup for them. I'm not actually sure what compensation they'll get, or Sydney will get.
I read that they'll receive a second round or end of round two compensation. Something like that.
Yeah, I read that too, but we don't know exactly what that is at the moment.
Yeah, yeah.
And then also Adam Chera has finally nominated the Blues as his preferred destination. So pick 6 will probably most likely be in that trade. So that's another good get for Carlton. Adds a bit of quality on the outside.
Yeah.
It's incentivized by a bid to return home from Chera. So good to see that he gets his wish. Then we got the Mason Cox, Levi Casbolt, Darcy Fort linked to Brisbane as the Eric Hipwood stopgap player for next season, as he'll miss most of the ACL. Look, if you had the choice to take your, 3 worst foods that you've ever picked and eat them in and have them with the nicest thing you've ever had, it's just gonna not work out either way. But it's which one's the
Facts.
least worst? And to be honest, I just think Cox would be the one to go with. But I'm not sure how I feel about this. Not gonna lie.
I mean,
it's Eric Hipwood.
yeah.
He's no big name. I mean, he's good. He's very good, no doubt. But we're trying to replace him with Cox, Darcy Fort, and
Come on now.
Levi Casbolt.
Cox is look. I don't. Look, I'm not gonna roast. I'm not gonna roast players. I'm not gonna do that. But it's I mean, you know what I'm trying to say. I don't.
Yeah,
Really say
I
anything.
know. I think everyone knows what we're trying to say. But
Yeah.
look, I think we just stick with Fullerton. Invest in other areas in the draft.
Yeah.
That's the best we're gonna have to
do. Lipinski requests a trade to Collingwood.
Yeah, Paddy Lipinski.
Chol.
Oh no, because Paddy Lipinski is an interesting one because Collingwood's trade period is going to be very interesting for me because I don't know how much you have read into it, but they're obviously going to have to use draft points on picking up Nick Dacos. So for those who don't know how the draft works, each draft pick is evaluated at a certain points level. I can't remember everything off the top of my head, but pick 1's 3,000 points, pick 2's 2,400. So Nick Dacos is a product of the Collingwood Academy. So Collingwood are able to match any bid on him. It's interesting because Collingwood, they think that Nick Dacos will be pick 2, which means that Collingwood will have to spend 2,400 draft points on him. At this present moment, going into the trade period, Collingwood only have 2,100 draft points, around that 2,100 mark. And there are a lot of low picks as well. So I don't know how they're going to pick up Lipinski, Kruger, and figure out this way how to get Dacos done. But
true, yeah.
It's Lipinski is definitely worth it because a lot of footy pundits have rated him as a potential top 5 player in the BNF next season. So if Collingwood could get their hands on him, it'll be a major pickup. But I just think the way that Collingwood have got to manage getting Kruger and Lipinski and try and figure out how to get Dacos while also trying to figure out how to get salary cap space to get Darcy Moore, Braden Maynard, and Jordan De Goey contracted could be very interesting to see how they manage all that.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting. Move on to Matt Bichol. He signed with Gold Coast. I think that's really good for him. I hope he'll get more playing time. Because obviously, at Richmond, he didn't get much playing time. So obviously going over to Gold Coast. For, how long is he going there for? Like 4 years or something?
3 or 4 years.
Yeah, 3 or 4 years. So yeah, hopefully he'll get some more playing time over there. Kelly to Essendon has been confirmed. He signed a 3-year deal, which is good. I'm not going to go into too much about it. He's a pretty good defender. Very, very underrated, I'd say. And yeah, he's a good pickup for us. Clark to Freo. So Geelong, they wanted a top 20 pick, but Freo are only offering pick 27.
Well, that's an interesting one because Geelong are funny in the fact that they don't rate their young kids because they won't give them a game. But then when it comes to like getting rid of them or trading them out, they're all of a sudden like the best player in the league. Because like Jordan Clark cannot be a top 20. Jordan Clark cannot be a top 20 pick based off how much he's played. It's just like really, really weird on how all of a sudden they're the best player in the league when they want to get traded out. But if he stays or if someone else stays, they can't crack into the 22. So, I think it's a bit double standard by Geelong, but hey, it's them running it. So we can't really, criticize them too much, but it's just interesting to see how they can't get a game, but all of a sudden they're the best player in the league when they're going to get traded.
Yeah. So Eagles, they're keen on bringing in Jordan Sweet from the Doggies. So with the retirement of Nathan Vardy, he will be a good ruck cover for them. McPherson could be bound to North Melbourne. And then, okay, so this one, so Dunstan. So we put that he would be a good pickup for Fremantle and Essendon. So just personally,
what do you think if you picked him up from Essendon? Yeah,
I don't think we actually need him. Like he's an elite midfielder, and he should find no problem, in finding another club. But because Essendon, we've got enough players for the midfield, right? So, and we've got some really talented young guys that I think we'd rather bring up rather than bring in someone who's already experienced, thus leaving out some young fellas out of the side who starred this season. You know what I mean? So yeah, and I think our coach Rutten, he said, I'm pretty sure they considered it, but I don't think they'll actually go ahead with it.
Yeah.
If we do, I think I'd be pretty surprised, but I just don't see us doing it.
The only thing I see is that you don't really have like a defensively minded midfielder, who, that tackle pressure. You don't have that type of player, don't you?
Oh no, we've got we don't. I guess we don't have like a defensive midfielder, but yeah. But I guess in terms of
he could fill that need. So would you reconsider that?
Yeah.
Because if you what in your opinion, what's Essendon's starting midfield 3?
Merritt, Parrish, and maybe not Archie Perkins because he's young, but Devin Smith, maybe. Yeah, maybe those are 3. I just feel like Shield. I forgot about him.
As your starting midfield.
That's the 3.
As your midfield. Yeah. Well. Yeah. Okay, so Marcus Bontempelli, you're playing the Bulldogs this week. Marcus Bontempelli goes into the midfield. Marcus Bontempelli likes to play ahead of the stoppage, like so many other players do in the league. Who's stopping him from your midfield?
No one.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I mean, look, true. If we do bring him in on that grounds, as a defensive midfielder, then it'll be good. But yeah, I just don't think that Rutten is Essendon is actually properly interested in getting him over
Mm.
there. But yeah, look, we'll see what happens with that. He could, yeah. We also mentioned that he could go to Frio as well.
Yeah, I just want
So
to quickly
yeah,
mention Fremantle because they were ranked 16th in the comp last year for pressure in the midfield. So that's a combination of like pressure acts, tackles, stuff like that. I
yeah,
think that Dunstan, he could feel it like, as that tackle pressure midfielder, could really help Fremantle take their game to the next level. And they're coming into, and the thing is that everyone forgets this guy's only 25, 26 years old. So he's got plenty of football left. So he can join a team that's in the age demographic or in the premiership window because he's probably experienced enough to play in a premiership team. But he can also join like a team that's coming up because he's still got 5 years of good football ahead of him. So he's in that sweet spot where, he can play in different roles in different teams. And to be honest, I'm surprised St Kilda let him go, but they have. So
yeah. I'm surprised too. I think when the news broke out, everybody was like, "What were they thinking?" But
yeah,
he should find no
especially with
problem
the
finding
second,
someone else.
yeah, and the second half of the season he was getting like 20 touches a game, a couple
Yeah,
of tackles a game. Like, how much more can you ask from the poor bloke? Like, he's done so well to break into that
yeah,
strong
fact.
midfield at the St Kilda, and then
No,
oh well.
100%. I agree. Yeah, like letting him go was a really big mistake. And it might come back to bite them next season. But we move on. So Tom Lynch, he signed as a coach for North Melbourne, and he can play some games as well. So he's a coach and he can play games.
Yeah, so
Is that how it works?
they've listed him as a player, but he's going to be like a development coach. So he's on the list as like a Tyson Goldsack from this year for Port Adelaide. He's on the list.
True. Yeah.
He'll play some VFL games, maybe a couple of AFL games. I'm not sure how his contract is, but he'll play a couple of games, but he's mainly there for a development coach. And similarly, Alex Rance signs for you guys as a, development coach / player as well. That's got to be a great pickup.
It's really good. He's just going to be focusing on like the key position players and the players from the Jack Jones Academy, which is like first to fourth year players. So that's like mainly his role. And yeah, he'll be focusing on the younger blokes and helping them develop, which is huge, really, really huge for Essendon. But
yeah, I know, especially with the lack of key backs you guys have. Would you play him? If you could, would you play him?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, he's 32, so he wouldn't have a lot in him, but
yeah, but I mean, just for experience wise, he'd be great.
Oh, he's probably better than what you've got at the moment.
Yeah, probably. I think like it's just his experience will add a lot. Like let's just say he plays. Like let's just say we put him in a game against like Gold Coast or something. Just an example.
I don't think he could play. I don't think he actually. I'm going to quickly jump in. I don't think he can play for the AFL team. He can play for the VFL, but I don't think he's going to play AFL.
I think he'll be in the VFL team sometime here and there, and then but he'll add a lot of experience. He'll add a lot of because like he even said that he enjoyed coaching the young fellas when he played like in a little practice game earlier.
Last year,
he said he really enjoyed that, and so yeah, obviously that's led to his new role. And of course, Rutten, he was under the coaching of Rutten as well, so that lured him to Essendon.
Yes. So now I've seen something floated. This is actually this morning. I saw something floated that a Tom Mitchell move to Richmond. Now, what they're saying is that Tom Mitchell could move to Richmond for something around the pick 7 and a couple of more picks. I reckon that could be a beneficial trade. I know someone who's going to absolutely hate it. Shout out to Roque and Matt. I don't think he'd actually rate having Tom Mitchell there. I don't know. He's not the biggest Mitchell fan, but I think he'd be happy, but not as happy. But anyway, point is that he could move, helps Richmond because they were the worst team for clearances last year in the comp, which for a premiership team is quite surprising. But also helps Hawthorn kickstart that rebuild. Pick 7, along with their pick 4. I think that's what they've got at the moment. So 2 high draft picks for Sam Mitchell to go take to the draft with, you know, the quality that's in the draft at the moment could be, because to be fair, they're saying it's I've heard conflicting views, because some people are saying this is a weak draft compared to other years. Others are saying it's pretty good. So could be interesting to see.
I
I mean,
don't know anything about that.
We got Jake Saligo in this draft period, so.
Oh yeah, true. No, I don't know anything about that. I think I've read something on one of the trade pages that we have a look at. They said that it's like a potential, like, Tom Mitchell going to Richmond or something. But yeah, I don't know too much about that. But obviously, you've got your connections and whatnot. So we will go on to some general news now. So, Neville Jetta has retired. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. His on-field contributions have been good, no doubt. Not great. Like, he's played a pretty good amount of games, and he's always been a good player. But I think the thing that will be lost will actually be his off-field contributions. So, the relationship between the AFL and the Indigenous communities, and getting Indigenous players to come play AFL. I think he's been vital for that relationship. So he definitely will be missed. Whether he comes back as a bit of an ambassador, or takes more of an off-field role, I think his days were done anyway. Like, Melbourne's defense, we were talking about it last week, are just, that's Melbourne's best part. So he probably wasn't cracking into that team, but it's good to see that, he goes off with a premiership win, and, has that accolade under his belt.
100%. And he's done a lot, as you said, for the Indigenous community. He was part of the AFL Players Association Indigenous Board or something like that. So yeah, obviously he's made a difference, which is good. We're going to move on to best and fairest now.
Yeah, well, just quickly as well, Lockie Henderson's also retired. So, that's a first of probably many that are gonna be leaving the retirement home at some point over the next couple of years. So,
Yeah.
The wheels are gonna fall off at that club. I think we're not going to go too much into that. We'll talk about that at the Geelong season review. But I think they're at the point where the wheels are going to start falling off.
Yeah, 100%. So, best and fairest. So
yes, we're going to quickly just go through the best and fairests for each club. I mean, just if you've got any objections with probably most of these look pretty good. There's a couple that I'd say are a bit contentious, but if there's any that
do you want to go through them and then tell?
Well, yeah. So Adelaide, we've got Rory Laird. I think that's set in stone. Rory Laird was their best player.
Set in stone. Perfect. Yeah.
Beyond doubt. Dane Zorko for Brisbane. Probably not, to be honest. Lions.
So who should have? Okay.
Jared Lyons, McCluggage.
Yeah.
Maybe even Daniel Rich is a bit of an outside chance. But yeah, Zorko was good, but I don't think this was his best year. Here we go. Jack Crisp for Collingwood. I think that's fair, but I do want to note that Jordan De Goey somehow finished 4th behind Braden Maynard and Scott Pendlebury. Like, this guy was averaging 30 disposals in the back half since like the bye to the end of the season. He was getting 30 plus touches a game, and he finishes 4th. Like, how?
Yep. I don't know how. I was really surprised. Like, I thought Jordan De Goey would be higher. I just didn't expect Chris to win it, which was really surprising. But
well, it's his first one too. But yeah.
Merritt. Well, look, congrats to him. So
Merritt, kudos to him. Zach Merritt for you guys.
Yeah, deserved. Like, I saw a lot of people saying Parrish robbed, but no, because Merritt was like consistent throughout the whole season. Not saying that Parrish wasn't. It's just that he got tagged a lot of games, so his impact was minimal. So So yeah, Merritt deserves it. Consistent all season.
Yeah. Sean Darcy for Fremantle. Yeah, him or the other person I'd probably consider giving it to would probably be David Mundy, but Sean Darcy, I'm happy with that.
He finished second, wasn't it?
Yeah, second.
Yeah.
But Tom Stewart for Geelong, yeah, fair call. Their defense was shambles without him, so 100%. Yeah, Jack Henry had a late push. Jack Henry had a late push for that Stewart one. He lost out by 2 votes, but Tom Stewart deserved that one. Duke Miller, I don't think either of us are going to have an objection with that. It's just he was goated this year. He just took his game to another level. Yeah. He was amazing.
100%.
Josh Kelly. I'm just trying to think. GWS. I don't think maybe Toby Green's a shout, but I think Josh Kelly, easy.
Yeah, I think Josh Kelly deserves that. Yeah, I mean, Toby Green had a really good season, but Josh Kelly had a really good season. Tom Mitchell.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair. I mean, problem with Hawthorn is all the good players keep getting injured. They got Jager Mira, Chad Wingard. All these guys are just injured half the time. So yeah, Tom Mitchell, he's probably back to as close as he's gotten post his injury to that like 2018 Brownlow winning season, like that.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
So 100%. this season was his best since his injury. Jai Simpkin, first one. I think that's fair. I think Cunnington is their best player, and if Cunnington had stayed fit the entire season, he would have won it. But Simpkin,
he also finished second as well.
Yeah, he got a bit emotional. Did you see that speech where he got a
bit
emotional?
Yeah. I did. I think it's good because, he's been struck down by a few personal medical things, and like to go through all that and then still finish second in your club. I think it's a big achievement for him. So yeah.
And people forget that these guys are still human too. So they've got personal lives, stuff that's going on behind the scenes that we don't always know about. So, good on Cunnington, but also good on Jai Simpkin. Ollie Wines,
100%.
no, I don't think he deserved it, to be honest.
I don't think he deserves it. I think should have been
Todd Marshall,
Travis Boak or someone. Yeah.
Todd Marshall should have won that one. Oh no, Darcy Burn-Jones. Darcy Burn-Jones was pretty good.
100%.
Yeah. Darcy Burn-Jones. Okay, Darcy Burn-Jones should have won Port. Dylan Grimes for Richmond. I mean, everyone had a down year, but Grimes was the least down, if that makes sense. So like he was the best of like a struggling team. So that makes sense. Yeah, I'd give that. Jack Steele, the one-man midfield at St Kilda. Should be 2 with Luke Dunstan, but hey, what can you do?
But not anymore. Parker.
Luke Parker for Sydney. I'd say deserved. I mean, it's going to be interesting next year because apparently John Longmire wants to add Isaac Heaney back into that midfield, obviously because he'll have a full preseason without the injury. I tell you what, Isaac Heaney is going to be a gun next year. Everyone, watch this space.
Isaac
Heaney, I'm calling it now. Potential Brownlow Smoky. You heard it here first. Isaac Heaney could be next year's Brownlow medal winner. He was amazing his ability to hit the scoreboard in the forward line while he's playing as key forward. He kicked 4 goals in the second half of that final against GWS. Single-handedly, nearly won them the game. Could you imagine if he could do that once in a while and still get like 25 touches in the midfield?
True that.
He's going to be amazing. This guy is potentially, I'm calling it now, could potentially win the Brownlow next year. Nat Nui for Eagles.
Deserved.
I mean, that's deserved. I mean, have you seen that the front bar clip where they go, "Oh, is there anywhere on the field you couldn't tap it to?" And then he goes, "Yeah, probably Liam Ryan in the forward pocket."
Yeah. I've seen
He's probably being realistic because this guy is like amazing. His ruck work, like man should probably be playing basketball, but his only problem is his fitness. But hey, Nat Nui, easy win. Bontempelli. I mean, he came second in the Brownlow, but I reckon McRae should have won it. I'm joking. No. Bont easily.
I went quiet because I wasn't sure if you're being serious. I was like, wait.
Yeah, no.
Bont deserves 100%.
Bont should win that one. I mean, McRae would have gone close, but But we're going to
it would've,
transition.
come second order.
Yes, but we are now going to transition into talking about the Bulldogs.
So we are moving on to season reviews. So as our viewers know, every single week we will be reviewing a footy team. So last week we reviewed Melbourne because obviously they won the grand final, and this week we are reviewing the runners up. And of course, we've got a little bit more of a special guest this week. We've got the Bev Show on. So yeah, first of all, thank you so much for coming onto the show. Coming onto the podcast. And so we just want to know, how did you get started with the Bev Show?
Thanks for having me on, fellas. Really appreciate it. Funny story. I sort of started doing a bit of live streaming, sort of post the Dogs 2016 premiership, actually. That's sort of when it all started, and people seem to tune in and like it. So it sort of started at that point, and then progressed through and started doing some other different types of content, sort of, the Hurricanes and the Dogs, and showing my passion for them. And here we are a few years later. So it's all worked out pretty well, to be honest. And I'm very lucky that there's many people that follow and watch my content.
Yeah, exactly. So what was it about the Bulldogs? So was there like a backstory, or is there something that made you pick the Dogs, or is it just luck of the draw?
Yeah. Yes, simple answer. My dad goes for the Dogs, so that's where I got it from. And just sort of did the old support the same team as my dad. And look, I wouldn't change who I support. I love the Dogs, have a big passion for them, and they're a good club, a great club to support. So got it from my dad.
Awesome. Yeah, because they've enjoyed a bit of success, so you'd be pretty happy with how everything's gone over the last couple of years.
Yeah, the highs and the lows. I mean, I remember sort of when I was younger, 2008, 2009, 10, that sort of era, we were losing prelims against St Kilda, and then Luke Beveridge came along, and then 2016 came along, and then all of a sudden I was witnessing a premiership. So it's definitely been highs and lows, but I think you get that with any club you support, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I think we've all experienced our heartaches. I know for myself,
absolutely,
the last 5-6 years before our run for the last 3 were just terrible with, constant bottom 4 finishes. But, we're up there now, and Essendon are up on the rise. So I think we're all pretty happy with how our clubs are doing.
Hopefully.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
all I've experienced is heartbreak so far. And like, even when we make finals, I'm like, yeah, look, it's not looking too good, but I don't want to speak about it. It'll hurt my heart. So anyways, we'll go into your reaction and your thoughts on the grand final. So obviously it wasn't what you wanted, but yeah, so what are your thoughts on the grand final? How did you see it all play out?
It was a cracking match for 3 quarters, and the thing that probably disappoints me the most, besides the fact that we lost, was it was a 74 point losing margin in the end to the Western Bulldogs, which I don't think really reflects on how good the game actually was. Obviously the Dogs were leading by 19 points earlier on in that third quarter. So yeah, what sort of happened in the sort of last minute of the third quarter to the last quarter was pretty disappointing, and the way we lost was disappointing. But it is what it is, I suppose. I mean, no one likes to lose a grand final, but what can you do as a supporter? But all I can say is, I mean, the way they got there was, extraordinary, given the last 3 games of the season. And so to get to the grand final is an achievement in itself. And it's disappointing they didn't go all the way and lift the cup in the end. But hopefully I know it's a newer sort of group compared to 2016. So hopefully they've had a taste of it now, playing in a grand final, and hopefully that motivates them moving forward into next season and beyond.
Yeah, exactly. So now that we've kind of got to know you a bit, and the audience has got to know you, we'll push on to 2021 Bulldogs. So if you were to point out the best player for the season, I know this is really difficult. Best player for the season, who would it be?
I think it has to be Marcus Bontempelli. I mean, second in the Brownlow. If it wasn't for the last 3 or 4 games, he probably would have won it. He just won his 4th Charlie Sutton medal the other day. So he's had an outstanding year, and he's captain as well. So he's really stood up as the leader of that football club. So I don't know what you guys think. I don't know if you agree, but Marcus Bontempelli for me, he's been the clear standout.
Yeah, we did talk about it a little bit earlier. We had we were going through the best and fairest, and we're saying Marcus Bontempelli fully deserved the Bulldogs ones. I mean, you had a few other good players as well. You know, Jack McRae played really well this season. Could even put down Alex Keith. He had one of his career best years. But yeah, it was without a shadow of a doubt Bontempelli for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100% Bontempelli. Moving to the next one. Surprising player.
Tough one. I reckon you could sort of pick out a few. Probably one to mind. The standout that comes to my mind is Bailey Dale. He used to be a forward. He used to play in the forward line. Never really made his mark into the team until this year when Bevo made a pretty good move to move into the half back line. And he's had an outstanding year, and it's resulted in him making the All-Australian team, which I think is just phenomenal for a player that has just recently switched to a new position. So for me, it's Bailey Dale. Like I said, you could probably point out a few, but to change positions at the start of the year and then make the All-Australian team, that's got to be outstanding in itself. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could probably almost say Bailey Smith with his finals campaign. Like
Absolutely.
That was nothing short of stellar.
Absolutely.
Now, pushing on to maybe disappointment's a bit harsh, but a play that was a bit, under par for what you expected going into this season, if any.
Oh, that's a tough one. What did you guys say? I'm trying to think.
To be honest, there's a few teams at the top, especially you guys, that we didn't really think had any, subpar players. I mean, off the top of my head, I can't really think of any. I mean, you had some patches where some players weren't really, performing as well as they could. But in terms of an overall season, I'm not really sure I have any.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I can't really think of anyone. I mean, probably I was going to say Tim English. Maybe in the ruck he was a bit disappointing at times this season, but overall contested marking, he's pretty good. Maybe Jason Johannesson. Maybe. He's obviously won a Norm Smith in 2016. Probably dropped off a bit since then. It's all I can really think of at the moment. It's a tough one. Especially when you make a grand final, you can't really pick out a certain player that was disappointing. There might be some players that maybe lacked a bit of consistency, but hard one, that one. It's a good question though.
It is, yeah.
Best win and moment of the season for the Bulldogs.
Probably the best win would have to be, this is throughout the whole season, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it would have to be the Port Adelaide win in the preliminary final. Not many people expected us to go to Adelaide Oval, given the interstate travel that we had done, and also given the fact that Port Adelaide, they're at their home ground. They hadn't even left the state during that final series. They beat us in round 23. So not many people expect us to win that game, and we not only won it, we came out and won it in the first quarter. I mean, that start was ridiculous. So that would have to be the best win, I think, for sure. There's been a few good wins this season, but that would have to be the clear standout. What did you guys say?
Yeah, no, that one easily. Oh, I'll let you go, Rocky. Sorry.
Yeah, with that Port Adelaide win, I probably agree with you. Like, you guys didn't train much. We're in quarantine. So, and to come out and absolutely obliterate them on Port's home turf was really, really amazing. But that was probably your best win of the season. Yeah, and it comes at a good time. You play some of your best footy during the prelim final, so it's good.
Absolutely.
I was going to go a bit different. I was going to say, I'm just mixing it up because of you guys. I was going to say your North Melbourne win, like really early on in the season, where you just absolutely smashed them. I think that was the first game where Adam Treloar really made his mark with those two centre clearance goals. So that was like when you established yourselves as firm contenders for this year. And I mean, it's probably your easiest win against the team that was struggling at the start of the season, but you just dominated the entire game and made yourselves look really good. So that was probably, for me, your best win. In terms of worst loss, maybe not necessarily loss, but like worst moment for you for the season, if any?
I'll give you two. I'll give you a heartbreaking loss, and I'll give you one that, obviously the grand final. That's probably the worst. That was actually our biggest loss of the season in the grand final. So I'd probably have to say that one. Although, yeah, we were good for a couple of quarters, but probably that other game against Melbourne as well. That one earlier in the season. We just never got into the game. And then probably the most heartbreaking loss was probably the Geelong game, where we were leading with about 30 seconds to go, or before the 30 seconds to go mark, and then Gary Rowan somehow inside 50 by himself marks the footy. You know what happens next? Wins the game, kicks it through. So that was a pretty heartbreaking loss, and also given we rarely win at GMHBA, I thought that was going to be the moment we were finally going to break through and win it at Canidia Park, but not to be. So yeah, there's probably a couple. Not sure what you guys think. I'm sure you have similar views.
Yeah, those two are good. I was going to go for the worst moment. I was actually going to say Josh Bruce with his ACL. So that was,
yep.
Yeah. So you guys, I mean,
Yep.
That was before your loss, 3-game loss streak at the end of the season. That just had to shuffle everything around. Tim English played predominantly forward, and Lewis Young was all of a sudden turned into your number one ruck with no Steph Martin. I think maybe it could have been a different story. I don't think Josh Bruce would contribute a 74-point deficit to the team, but I just think he was, especially with how well he was going this year, and he had 48 goals for the season when he went down. So I think that was just a big loss for you guys in general.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. I mean, he would have been very handy out there during the finals series, and I guess that's what's even more remarkable is we're probably missing our best key forward of the season during the finals. So to get to the grand final in that perspective is pretty good. But he was a big loss. Would have loved to see him out there in grand final day, that's for sure.
100%, yeah. Just before we go on to the next thing, if you hear some background noise. We live in Melbourne, of course. I know you live in Tassie, but here in Melbourne, the weather is horrible, and it's raining right now. So if you hear a lot of noise, we apologize to our guest and the audience. But anyways, we go on to the next one. So season grade. We kind of figured whereabouts you'd place your team this year, but yeah. So season grade for the season.
I'd probably say a B. Is that how we're grading?
Yeah, letter grade.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, B for me probably, or B plus. I reckon. Like, I think the way I look at it is at the start of the season, I was sort of thinking, okay, if the Dogs can make the 8, win a final, that's probably good enough for me. So they exceeded my expectations. They not only made the 8, won a final, they were in the top 2 for a majority of the season. Obviously, they didn't finish there in the end. And then, the final series they were pretty much underdogs in every game they played during the final series, albeit maybe the Essendon game, and they managed to win all of those games and get through to the grand final. So the way they got to the grand final was pretty special. So for me, it's a B. Obviously, there's always some room for improvement, but hopefully they can. Well, I guess next year they're probably going to be graded a little bit more harshly if they don't get back to the grand final next year.
Yeah, exactly. Agreed. And there's so many other teams as well, so you'd forgive that you guys didn't have the highest of expectations going into this season, but I mean you exceeded all of it and you had a great season. So what's next for the Bulldogs? So if you were, say, Luke Beveridge and you're looking at this team, are you thinking what team improvements, what trade targets are you looking at this year?
I think defensively we need to be better. I think there were times where we were opened up a bit in our defence. Obviously, Alex Keefe is our important defender, our most important defender. Bailey Williams is good. Easton Wood's probably closer to the end. Not sure about Zane Cordy. I thought Ryan Gardner was one huge improvement this season with the footy that he played. He had a bit of an injury interrupted season, but thought he was really good in that Essendon game. I thought he was stiff to miss out on playing in the grand final. So yeah, probably defensively for me. I know Tim O'Brien's been linked today, so whether he comes in, he's versatile, so he can play forward and defence, although he would probably have to play defence. I think we're pretty much set in the midfield, and I think we're pretty much set in the forward line as well. Like we've got Bruce to come back, Norton, Jamari Ugle-Hagan. He's going to be a star once he's matured a little bit. Obviously, Sean Darcy coming in. There's probably a few others as well. So, yeah, defensively for me would be where I would be looking at if I was Luke Beveridge, and I'm very sure he's probably looking at the defence anyway, so he probably doesn't need me to tell him. I'm sure he's looking anyway.
Yeah, pretty much. Because you are a bit light on with probably tall defensive options. Yeah. I'm not sure how tall Bailey Williams is off the top of my head, but that's what surprised me.
No.
He's not really a tall defender, isn't he?
He's probably more of a medium, sort of interceptive sort of defender.
Yeah.
He's really good though. I think he's one of the more underrated defenders, maybe in the competition, but more so in the Dogs lineup. Yeah. So, but yeah, probably like key defenders, I think, besides Alex Keefe, we probably lack. And like I said, I'm not sure about Zane Cordy at the moment. Ryan Gardner's got the potential. Is there someone else to come in? Maybe.
Well, I just thought it was interesting with your grand final lineup that you didn't, because I was saying to people around here that I thought for you guys to win the game, you guys had to actually roll with all three. I was saying that the Bulldogs would have had to roll with all three of them. So Cordy, Keith, and Gardner. Because I just thought that, Easton Wood and Bailey Williams probably weren't good enough to take all three talls. So obviously you've got Ben Brown, Tom McDonald, and Luke Jackson / Max Gawn, whoever's not rucking. So I just thought it was interesting that he decided to only roll with the two rather than the three. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think maybe he might have. He probably. I guess it was out of. I guess Cordy was to come in, and then maybe it was out of Shaki and Gardner. And Shaki, he's become a little versatile this season. He's played a bit of defence. He did actually play defence in the last game against Melbourne, and did a good job. So maybe that's what the thinking was, is keeping Shaki in the team. Not sure if he even went defence at any stage in the game a couple of weeks ago. So maybe that was the thinking. But I thought Gardner was quite stiff to miss out, though, because I think this season he's actually been good in patches where he's played. Obviously, he's had a couple of shoulder injuries this season.
Yeah, because you were 8-1 with him, weren't you, before finals? I think that was your record.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think you're right. Yes, correct.
Yeah, so that was like really interesting to see that, he was the one to make way. But I mean, there's always going to be heartbreak with grand finals. And I mean, we're forgetting Lathan Vandermeer as well, who unfortunately tweaked his hammy in the Port game. So he was another one stiff to miss out. But, and you've touched on this before, but goal for next season. So grand final again?
Yeah, I'd like to see them get back there. There's always that level of, what's the word? You got to have your fingers crossed, I think, because we have seen teams unable to recover from big losing margins in a grand final. I think Adelaide and GWS are perfect examples of that in recent years. But, I mean, I guess with the team they have and with some improvements, I think there's no reason why the Dogs can't be back there next year. And I mean, given they didn't even finish in the top four, I mean, if they can get into the top four and get a second chance, I mean, I'm sure that's going to help their cause a bit more next year, going to give them a bit more of a break, a bit more of a freshen up. I guess Melbourne, that was the advantage of them a couple of weeks ago. They were probably a bit more fresh than the Dogs. For me, I'd like to see them back on that last Saturday in September. That's probably going to be my expectation next year. So, it's going to be tough, especially when you look at, some of these teams coming through, like the Bombers. I mean, they'll improve next year with another preseason under their belt. Sydney, GWS were probably the ones that were unexpected to make the 8 this season, but they did. And obviously you've got some teams outside as well. So it's not going to be easy to get back there next year, but that would be my expectation.
Yeah, because especially, I mean, you're looking at the lists and stuff. Next season, you could potentially have 13 teams pushing for finals. It's quite extraordinary how we're going to try and crop this 13 into 8. But, It's going to be a 2022 season is going to be a very interesting one. The Bulldogs will definitely play a major part in that.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah, fingers crossed. And I think, like I said, with the list they have, and they're still very much young. They're definitely a chance to get back there next year. But obviously, you gotta cross your fingers because it's not a certainty.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that brings us to the end of this episode. So I'd like to thank you again, Bev, for joining us and talking about your Bulldogs. Obviously, a very passionate supporter, and really excited and happy for you to come on. So thank you for that.
No worries. Pleasure to be on, and thanks for having me.
Can we get a quick doggies bark for the audience?
Doggies, doggies, doggies! Bark, bark, bark! Go the doggies!
There we go. We love to hear it. All right. So that brings an end to the Footy Ramble. I'm your host, Matt and Rocky, and we've got special guests, The Bev Show. Thank you.